Okay, we continue effects in variation. Don't forget to make the setting of render to standard, and then go into the material and create a new material. And we are continue to explaining the effects. And down here we can access a variation. Okay, this is variation shader with a lot of settings that I will be explaining now. Okay. For doing that, for better understanding the variation, we need to scene. First, the scene with sphere and a move graph. We bring a sphere and then we bring a move graph, cloner. In a cloner, we change it to the grid, nice. 3 in a both direction. Make it the higher number. Make them closer to each other. Something like that. And then we use effector random to randomize it. In a random, that's parameter less random or more, not important. Sorry, make them closer to each other just for seeing the object closer to each other to see. And then for seeing that shader, we need interactive interactive render. Make it bigger to see all of the shapes, higher quality. Then assign this material to the cloner, and then you can see we have a variation of the color. Okay, let's talk about the settings. First setting is a seed. Then you can randomize your variation like this. You can see it better here. The object variance is on an object, or you can disable it. Just simple color you can assign. Or base object name, object hierarchy, parent and child. And if you have an object buffer or based on material name, I change it to the object. It's the base of the object that a cloner create for us. For polygon variation, it's very interesting. For polygon variation, we need another scene. Go into this plus new project. For this project, I create a simple plane and make it editable to access the polygons. If you change it to the surface, you can see we have lots of polygon here. That it's randomized the color of this polygon. Okay, make sure your render setting is in a standard, because we are in a standard. Create new material holding your mouse and create a standard material. We assign the plane to material to the plane. Go into the effects and variation again. In a variation, you can change the polygon variation to polygons. And for seeing that, of course, you need interactive render. Now you can see we have a variation in a polygon. Polygon step, you can make it 2. It means 2 polygon create give it same color. Okay. Back to our previous scene, interactive render. So this is on polygon mode, polygon tag. Come back to that. For example, if you select some polygon here and set selection of them, store selection, you can see it's stored the selection of the polygon there. These are selection tag. Sorry. Set store selection. And for example, another set selection here. And this shader, interactive render, this shader, if you set it to the selection tag, it's randomized the color of this the polygon that you selected before and store the selection here. UV tile, it's for this. We delete all of these selections and I clear it. I load an texture here. Okay, for example, this texture. On top of this texture, I assign a variation. And in a variation, before that, go into the tag, go into this tag, and in a tile, you can make it tile 5 in both direction. As you can see, we have 5 to 5 tiling. Then going to the variation, you can UV it in a UV tile, and based on the UV, it's changing the color of the tiling of your texture, polygon tiling. For masking, you can create a mask for that. For example, you can create a noise or gradient for masking, and it's bending the variation of the color and the texture below based on the black and white color. For example, you can change the gradient, or you can assign noise to that. Based on a noise, it's created, or you can make it to just polygons. So it's masking based on this color code in the white area we have, and it's mixing, blending the texture below and the color variation that you create with this. Okay, clear that, make it to disable this object. That's nice. Turn it off. Coming back to previous scene. Double click to bring the variation setting. I close this to better seeing other setting. Okay. From here, you can add another texture to your color variation, or I simply load a texture here. Now you can see we have our texture and color variation both together. You can add another texture. You can clear it. You can add from folder from this texture. You can deactivate or activate it. You can add second texture and mix it. From here, you can changing the blending of these textures together. Make it a 0, or blending the color to each other. From here, you can turn off the random color fully, and you can just see your color here. You can just see the texture here. Now you can see the secondary texture. For blending the secondary texture, you can add texture number 1 and secondary texture and texture number 2. For example, from here you can add a simple color. For example, something like green. And you can changing blending of this and this texture here. It's a little bit confusing settings, but you can play with them and see what happens. And of course, you can blend to each other and use all of these blending modes to change the settings. Nice. Okay, for doing that, I clear the second texture and clear that. So we have no variation because I change a random color to the 0. You can make it to the 100%, and now you can see your random color. You can see you can mix this random color to other texture and secondary texture with random mode, color mode. You can mix them together. Okay, we can close the shader, can close color variation. From here, you can change the variation for example, a little variation for hue. We have more variation to saturation, more sature or less. This is an random. This slider is randomize the hue, randomize saturation, randomize the lightness, randomize the contrast of this changing color. Okay, it's randomizing. That's it. UV coordinate variation. It's for if you assign a texture here, load and texture. Sorry, from texture number 1. Don't forget that. Okay, I insert that. And of course, you can use gradient for this changing. For that, you have to increase the number of the gradient blend. 100% now you can see, you can change the color gradient from, for example, this color to the white. You can use gradient as a blending. This is a strength of that actually. Okay, I'll turn off the random, and from the UV, if you set the texture, you can simply, for example, flip at the Y, flip X and Y, the texture, you can see them. You can change the tiling, for example, the UV rotate. You can change your texture rotation in any degree quantize that you want. You can scale the texture. It's for working for the texture. You can shift it in any direction that you want. You can flip it. If you have a tile, you can change them. For example, I think you can come here and make it more tile here, 3 to 3. You can shift your texture. It's for working for a texture. And that's it. It's for variation, color, and insert the texture. You can use a gradient. You can use second texture, add another texture, secondary texture. You can mix all of them together with a gradient for mixing them. You can turn off or on or increase or decrease the number of the gradient blending if you want to calculate this to your texture. Increase the number of the gradient blend to 100% or any number that you want. Of course, you can use all of this blending mode together. And that's it. You can remove it from here or assign any texture or any shader, other shader from here to randomize the color of your graph or polygon, something like this. And that's it.